This program is brought to you by the 603 Alliance, dedicated to restoring constitutional control at every level of government, and New Hampshire's leading political blog site, GraniteRock.com.
Rock Talk.
Right, you've got more
more
good
board members in one place
a good
at the same
chunk
time.
of the 603 Alliance board is now in the room and on microphone. So
we have a quorum.
we do have a quorum. So Fran Wendelboe, Diane Bitter, Don Ewing, myself, and Steve McDonald. And Skip was a co-founder. As were Chuck and Di Lothrop and a few other people.
Mike and Marmar Rogers.
Mike and Marmar Rogers, of course. I shouldn't leave them out. But so that was the caucus was our first big project. Well, actually, it was our second big project because we kicked off with an all-day event that had speakers like Steve King, Betsy McCoy, Sharon Engel, Trevor Loudon. Trying to remember who all was at
Fredo.
Fredo Arias King from Mexico. We had a real a day-long event with a lot of speakers, and I think a lot of people in New Hampshire felt like it was really great to just get everybody together for, that was. I don't know. We see a lot of the same faces at a lot of the same events, but it was really getting everybody together for a full day of this kind of camaraderie and listening to really great speakers. So we've done a couple of those since then. We did the Liberty Trump Socialism rally or event last year. James O'Keefe was our keynote speaker for that. But in addition to these various events, we also have been doing candidate trainings. And so in 2018, 2016 we did a couple of smaller events, but 2018 was our bigger foray into training people to run for state representative. So if there's anybody out there who might be interested in running for state rep, we'd love to talk to you. The state GOP is doing a great job now of recruitment, but we have built a community of people who've come to these trainings and I think came away from it really feeling like they were not alone in the process, which is a big step forward because running for state rep can be a lonely process. So I'll leave it there and let somebody else kind of take over with some of the details around training.
Well, I think the training was important. Unfortunately, the state party, their training was a 2 or 3 hour thing where they mostly talked at candidates and not with candidates. Ours was very hand-on. We had a call-in system where every week or two we would have an open line for them to call in and say, I'm having a problem with such and such. And that way the whole group could benefit from that as we walk through how to solve their problems. And they came away from it. We trained over 80 candidates, and they came away from that with a real good sense of camaraderie. Once they were elected, they stuck together. They were their own support network down at the House. It wasn't like leadership took them by hand and told them what to do. They kind of coalesced, and they did what they thought they were elected to do. So that was a real positive. We were very fortunate that early on we had a fundraiser where Steve Bannon came in and was our guest speaker. Did a great job. It was just before his fall from grace, so it was a hot ticket. We had a couple of hundred protesters turn up outside, and a great time was had by all. But he was what helped us in that the funds that we raised from that dinner was able to pay the costs of all of that training for those candidates. We did that training completely free, and we intend to do that again this year with the training, and don't think we will have as many challenges. There were a lot of incumbents who were really not good Republicans that we helped some people run against them. I don't think we're going to have that much of a problem because Republicans have pretty much towed the line in this last year and a half. So maybe they've learned how to be better Republicans. But I am very optimistic moving forward, and 603 Alliance has been a driving force. We were the savior to a lot of people that weren't finding the resources from the state party at that time. Things have changed under Steve Stepanek's leadership, and I think there's going to be a lot more engagement. But I think the quality program that 603 Alliance put on is still very much needed and very much appreciated.
I think we'll be able to supplement what the state party is going to do, because they have other fish to fry as well, which is, I think they'll offer some training, but there's a whole lot to be done around messaging on what the Democrats have been up to and why we need to, get Republicans elected statewide.
One of the things, if I could just add a little bit more about the training that we did, I think it's important for people to realize that it wasn't just coming into an auditorium, sitting down and listening to a few people speak at you for a few hours, and then you go home and you're expected to now know how to conduct a campaign and how to go out there and win votes. What we actually did was a 2-day process where people would come in, we gave them initially a little intro, and then said, now here are the stations. You can go over to that station, and here's your dance card, fill it out. You go to that station and get your photo taken, and that'll be your professional photo for your website. Then you go to the next station and you're going to set up your website right here, right now in this place. Then you go to the next station and there somebody is going to give you all the history on your opponent's record and how they have voted in the past and what the issues are, and I give you pointers on how to handle that. So this is the way the whole arrangement was done, and you could pick and choose where you needed to go to get the information that you wanted for your campaign. Or you could go over here and talk to someone else about what kind of a sign do I need to make, and how do I go about getting a sign, and what's a good price to pay for a sign, and how do I get the best buy. So we gave them the whole gamut of what to look for and what to expect. And so when they went home, they felt like they'd accomplished something.
And they had a chance to talk to people about it. It
Yes.
wasn't just stuff thrown at them, like you said, like in 2 or 3 hours. They actually got to pick the thing they wanted the most. Like,
Right.
I need a professional photo, or I really need a sign that looks good, or I need, or I need training on social media, or I need to know how
Exactly.
to do mailers, and they could just go and sit with a human being and talk for an hour or however long in a group or together, and they could brainstorm and really share their concerns. I mean, you had other first-time candidates there. You had some candidates who'd been in office before, and they had the opportunity to talk about their experience, who they worked with, how it worked. I mean, it's invaluable to have. It's like AA, literally. You have somebody with you who's in the same boat trying to do the same thing, and you have the support system. And I don't know if anybody had ever done that, really, in New Hampshire before.
I don't think it had ever, the training had never been accomplished like that, and I think that was the
Well, Fran would
takeaway.
know.
Not to that extent. There used to be the Reagan Network that had kind of stepped in at one point, but I like to call 603 Alliance the Reagan Network on steroids. Because we did it right, and I think a lot of people were impressed by, and perhaps even intimidated by our success.
Mm-hmm.
And we're there. We're going to do it again, and we're going to make the New Hampshire House stronger, more conservative, and take the majority.
I hope so. And we talk a lot about not just actual doing, but the perception. And you get these 80 candidates that had this experience, and not all of them won, but a lot of them did, and they take that with them, and they go talk to other people in the House that are there, and other freshmen that didn't take part in that process, and they spread the perception of the value that we created pretty much out of thin air to help them. And now they have an opportunity, if they feel like they need that support, that we'll be there to help them. And that's just invaluable, especially when you're going to a state house 3 days a week or whatever you're doing. You get $100 a year plus mileage. I mean, it's something you have to want to do,
Yeah.
right? And a lot of people are going to crap on you for it. and a lot of times you're going to say, why did I bother? And if you have people who are supporting you, like GraniteGrok.com supports the Republican message, we support the constitutional message. There are people who are walking around going, this is how you do it, this is your help. Al Baldessari was just here. I asked him the question. I said, what's your role? Are you helping these freshmen or whatever really try to understand the process and how to deal with constituents who come at them, sideways? And he said, yes, absolutely. We're all for that. And that's how you get reps who stay and vote well, and they have to have some support. They have to know they're not alone.
Second.
So yeah, I guess the question I ask is, what result did we produce? And the 2018 was a tough year for Republicans,
Especially
but
in the state.
Speck Bowers, who is also a board member, unfortunately not here today. He is a wizard with all things data oriented. So he did an analysis of our candidates, and basically we can proudly say that our candidates did better than the average, and the candidates we worked with did better than the candidates that didn't work with us. And in a year where we have a pretty narrow margin to prevent the Democrats from from overriding vetoes, that was important. So we feel like we made an important contribution, and will continue to do so. 603 Alliance is an all-volunteer organization. We don't get paid for what we do. We live on the kindness of strangers, and so we, if you go to our website,
The scorn of our enemies.
there's that too energizes us, although it's harder to spend. But so this project today, for example, is a joint venture of the 603 Alliance and Granite Grok, and has been made possible because there's some generous people who've made donations to 603 Alliance and to Granite Grok. I know Skip put out the call for help a couple weeks ago and said, hey, we're doing this, will you help us? So we're just kind of a ragtag group trying to make it happen.
Great.
And I think we can be pretty proud of what we've done. So so we've got Radio Row, we've got this Initiative 20
What's the website?
project coming up. Don is pointing out that I should be talking about our website, and I should be talking about our website, 603alliance.org. So if you go to 603alliance.org, you can sign up for our email newsletter. We don't send out a lot of email newsletters.
We don't sell your name.
We definitely don't sell your name. We don't share your name. But as soon as you visit that website, a box will pop up, and you can put in your email address, and you'll get our newsletter. And there is a donate page there. So if you're inclined to help out, if you want to help out with getting people elected who will preserve your Second Amendment rights and your First Amendment rights and all 8 of the other ones, I think there are 10. Last time I counted, there were 10. 603 Alliance is working towards that.
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah, number 3 is a little bit,
Sketchy.
archaic, but, Anyway, so that's what the 603 Alliance is doing. We had an event with Trevor Loudon and E.W. Jackson back in September, and we actually did 3 of these. And Trevor Loudon is going to be on the phone with us sometime over the next few days. E.W. Jackson is actually coming in person, and he is a faith leader based in Virginia. He's a Marine Corps veteran, Harvard Law School graduate, ran for lieutenant governor in Virginia, and he is going to be doing his radio show from our booth, not tomorrow, Monday and Tuesday, from 1 to 2, and that goes out on the American Family Radio Network to about 180 stations nationwide. So he'll be here Monday, Tuesday, and he'll be joining us across the street at the Trump rally on Monday evening. So we're looking forward to having him here. He has founded a group called Stand Against Communism. Staying True to America's National Destiny, I believe is what it stands for. And then, of course, our friend Trevor Loudon, who is coming out with a new book.
Tomorrow at 11:45 or 11:30. He'll
At
be on
11:30 is Trevor?
tomorrow.
Okay. Tomorrow at 11:30, Trevor Loudon. So he is coming out with a new book. I believe it's called White House Reds. And it's all about the parade of communists who are running for the Democratic nomination right now. So, White House Reds by Trevor Loudon. And trevorloudon.com is where you can get information on him. And he also has a blog called the New Zeal blog. He is from New Zealand. And another website called keywiki.org, where he sort of maintains a wiki of all these sort of shadowy socialists and young democratic socialists and
Yes,
Communist
if
Party
you're-
USA.
If you
And
get somebody on the left to call you a conspiracy theorist, you can go there and find actual evidence that it's not a conspiracy, but they'll call you that anyway.
yep,
But there's tons of information. The links go back from his first book, I think. Just all these people in government and in politics in America who have all these connections to socialist organizations who are advancing socialist policies. And it is a great resource.
it is. It is pretty fascinating stuff.
Jim, another person that we're going to be having on air this week is also Barbara from Harlem. And she's been with us several times. She's a real gem. And I think the Grok listeners are going to really enjoy hearing from Barbara. She was a dyed-in-the-wool Jesse Jackson Democrat. And during the Tea Party movement, she saw the light. And she has become one of the strongest advocates for the president and for how he has uplifted the lives of so many blacks in America. And she's very vocal about it. She's a hoot. She's a character. And I think that people are going to love hearing from her. She's physically coming up here. She's going to be going to the Trump rally. She's totally excited about that. She's special. She is. And we also had the climate change forum.
Oh,
You forgot to mention about
I
the
forgot
climate
the
change.
Climate Change Forum. The Climate Change Forum that started out as a debate. We were going to invite the Democrats to come debate climate change. And
AOC.
AOC hand-delivered an invitation to AOC.
And pretty much in line with our expectations, none of them took us up on it. What I shouldn't say surprised me, but what I was maybe dashed my hopes just a little bit was I was hoping that somewhere along the way we would find a climate change professor or scientist or somebody that would be willing to come up and sit on stage and argue the case. And it was pretty astonishing, some of the responses that we got, which basically were, well, we know we're right. So once you admit we're right, then we'll come debate you. That was more or less the response that we got from those folks. But we had Christopher Monkton and Joe Bastardi, who is a legendary weather forecaster, works for Bellwether Analytics, and frequently appears on some of the major networks. So, that was a good event. We got very good feedback.
That was
from
at St.
as well.
Anselm's. We had over 100 people attend it, and everybody raved about it.
Good questions came up that night. The one other thing, we should not forget to add that we like to have fun sometimes. And at the inauguration, we actually held our own inaugural ball here in New Hampshire.
That's true. We did. And it was awesome.
A live band and dancing, dinner, fun. We had a great time. And while we were doing all of that, on 2 large screens, you could watch what was going on at the actual inaugural balls in D.C.
No, it was great, and nobody probably really ever done that either.
Gee, I don't know.
No, nobody could recall ever having had an inaugural ball in New Hampshire.
Well, if we do it again, we need that band. They were great.
The band was fantastic. They were expensive, but they were fantastic. There were more people dancing to our band that were dancing to the bands at the as they showed the formal balls. Certainly, more people were dancing than when the governor had his inaugural ball for his governorship. Nobody was dancing like they were dancing at our event.
We had fun. We did have a good
It
time.
was a great event.
I even wore a tiara.
About 8 more minutes before our next guest comes on, who I forgot already. I apologize. 'cause
Adams?
Nick Adams.
Nick Adams. Okay.
I
Nick
just
Adams.
texted him that we'll be calling him at
Okay.
5.
We're going to be using our new awesome technology, care of John Irish, without which we would be in a pickle.
Thank you,
So,
John.
We want to thank John for that. We got to
You know,
find all
Steve-
the little bits and pieces that he needs. So here's the number. We'll call him in about 5 or 6 minutes, and we'll have him ready.
You know, Steve,
yes.
this shows collaboration. It shows, 603 couldn't have done this on.
We're all just showing off.
Yes.
We couldn't have done this on our own. We needed Granite Grok. Granite Grok probably couldn't have pulled off scheduling all the speakers and particularly the quality of the
I
speakers.
can tell you from professional experience when I was running Grok Talk, our 2-hour Saturday morning podcast every week, that I was, and I have a full-time job. I blog as a hobby, and we were doing this, and I was doing all the bumpers, drops, ads, and I was getting all the guests. And that's only 2 hours, so maybe 3 guests an hour, but we would usually only have like 2 or 3 guests every single show every week, and it got to a point where I was having to get co-hosts too because Skip and Mike had different problems that they just could not get away from, and just the effort involved in wrangling people, and then you call them and they're not there. I totally understand. There's no way we could have done this without 603, without you guys doing all that legwork.
But this was a group effort.
It was, and everybody kind of
team
really
effort.
did. But I mean, a lot of the weight needs to be Fran and Diane and Jim. I mean, they do a lot, and they don't ever get enough credit for it, I'm sure. But they're not doing it for credit, and that's kind of the same thing with Granite Grok. We're not doing it for credit. We're doing it because it needs to get done.
And you have a life, and that's why having
Right.
somebody like John Irish kicking in and helping as well
Yes,
just
absolutely.
shows
He's
what
the
happens.
Technological skill. He's invented this nifty new thing that we're using.
So speaking of Steve having a life, I've been trying to figure out how it is that Steve has a life because Steve has a full-time job, and somehow he manages to post at least a half a dozen times a day. And I can tell you that when you were in the seat next to me, Steve, we were having conversations, and somehow through having those conversations, you managed to write and post
I did.
at least 3 blog posts.
Well, I posted 2,
Okay.
but one of them wasn't mine. But
Must have some woman in him. Multitasking. It's usually the women that can just juggle a half a dozen things at a time.
I'm going to use that. I can't get in the bathroom. I'm a woman. Let me in this other room.
Actually, that's how he can post so much when he has a job. They think he has a condition that he has to go to the bathroom often so he can do his posts.
It's a logistical gift that I have worked on for so long. And, I'm not looking for compliments, but Susan Olson, whenever I see her, she comes up to me and she says, "You have a gift." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She says, "You just have a gift." She says, "You can sit down and in 15 minutes you can produce something that looks like it should have took hours." And I understand a lot of people take hours to come up with something like that, but it's not just me. I mean, just about every journalist can do it. Anybody who writes for a living can do it. I do it for free. I do it because I want to do it and I want to get better at it. And it just so happens that in the process of learning to write better, I learned to be able to grab bits of information and throw them together really quick and put something up and have it be something people want to read. And they're not always, but
Can you get the dishes and laundry done in time for the
dishes, yes. I don't touch laundry. I'm not allowed to do laundry. That's deliberate, by the way. If you screw up the gentlemen, if you screw up the laundry, your wife will do it.
Yeah, we've noticed that.
Well, my husband, he used to do the laundry, and to him, doing the laundry was throwing the clothes into the washing machine.
All of them.
Throwing, yes, and then throwing them into the dryer, and then throwing them on the couch. where they sat unless I went and folded them and put them away. That
Right.
they didn't acknowledge that
Just had this
part.
conversation with my wife.
At least you got a sports practice for throwing stuff.
So I told her, I said, I will do laundry, but I don't want to fold and put away. And she's like, I hate that part. I'm like, well, then we're stuck.
We're just about out of time for this little session, but I came in late. Did anyone mention our mission statement?
Yes.
Oh, good.
I
Okay.
started with our mission statement.
Thank
That's
you.
usually
Thank
what
you.
I
I
do.
figured you would have, but I just
I'm
wanted
well
to
trained.
get that in there.
Raw Talk.